There's something definitely... I'm sure we need to look into the meanings and definitions of public houses and things like that, because here it's saying, right, that in the very early days of the pub, the name of the pub as a public house differentiates a public dwelling from a private one, like a private house. A public dwelling through the sale of alcohol. So it's not a private house anymore. Shops have the private apartments and the dwellings, but the shop itself is an establishment open to the public. I think that I'm pretty sure that the legislation for YouTube, at least in England, is supposed to be meant to be the same as a newspaper, because it is just publishing, and your advertisements are those videos on YouTube that are they're actually an advertisement. It's classed as an advertisement, and they should be treated as that class F. They should be treated as the class F advertisements through use of an enactment. And the deemed consent and the express consent and deemed consent applies to places that are visible from public places as well. And you can deliver it to private property. And this is when you're really stretching it, but you know the service of notice is if you're serving a notice, and if an advertisement is giving notice, and if it's in a full apartment block of buildings, if you want to give notice to every single resident using class C, for painting, through use of the enactment on the side of the apartment block without delivering it to every single door, at least without getting prosecuted or imprisoned, I'm quite sure you can do it. And I don't think that council can issue a removal notice. And if the owner of the building, not necessarily the residents, but the owner can ask the council to remove it for a fee. But can the council remove it if they aren't allowed to issue a removal notice? This is the thing. I'm quite sure it also definitely removes that the right of them to obliterate it as well. Which, if they can't obliterate it, then how can YouTube or Facebook or any other platform obliterate it? Basically. It isn't. There's a difference between private members-only clubs, but there's something else actually. So this whole kind of, this is actually on the Gunpowder Plot website, or one of them, but it is from 1601 was it, or literally just at the start of the 1600s, or the first 2 or 3 years. That is before the Tumultuous Petitioning Act, and well before the 1688 Bill of Rights. It clearly states in that Professor Karen Bowie paper, it explicitly states that people were just meeting in private in their own houses, right? Meeting in their own houses and talking about certain things, matters, or even discussing religion and so forth, and they were getting prosecuted or arrested for that. That's why on the right to petition, it's talking about free speech also in connection with Parliament, outside of Parliament as well. But I actually think that this is a lot more significant, because you've got to think of this as a model, right, in your head. So you've got a house, a private house, not in public, not even a shop, private property, right? Private property, right? It doesn't really matter who is the owner and whose property it is, but you're in private property, right? And if you're discussing or debating things, debating usually means having an opinion on to the contrary of someone else in the private property, right? It says that, the right to petition is there to protect the free speech, right? Also, so it's there to, and I really think this is really, really significant in a really, really deeper fundamental way, rather than, how we normally think of it. Like when you think of private, it's all about who owns it, who owns it, who owns it. It's not necessarily about who owns it or not. So, private rooms, private house, private building, right? But yet, free speech to debate, argue, or contest something, be able to respond with something that the other person in the private place might not like or want. Now, you might automatically just think, oh, well, the person who owns it invited them, or they said they could be there or whatever. Yes, but this is about, either being charged or prosecuted, or being allowed to engage in debate at all. Because the thing about a debate is that the whole point of a debate is to contest or argue something, right? And if you aren't allowed to do that, then, you can't say what you want and you haven't got free speech. So, this is the whole thing about, if you went to a cocktail party and you were just wandering around and you spoke to someone and they don't like your opinion, they might walk away and not want to talk to you or whatever, right? But when you add the political thing onto it, you are meant to have certain protections. Now, the person who owns the house, right, if they've got a private party invite only, but it's important, right, I think, for a foundational point in it, that it says that you can't be prosecuted or charged or held to any commitments if, as we found through the research study, being in private and on-private. So it actually, one of the purposes and reasons was speaking freely while being in private. It doesn't say whose property it is or who owns it, but while in private, on private premises, in private premises, and debating or contesting with another person. Now, let's say that it's a pub, right? Lots of people are in pubs and speak freely, and they have very strong oppositions. And do you like tomatoes? No, I don't like tomatoes. I really don't like them. Why not? Well, you find out. You speak about it and find out. That's what the debate is. So you debate tomatoes, right, in a public house, right? So you can't, theoretically, on free speech alone, but without any additional rights. You were in. Well, it's actually a public house, isn't it? It's not actually someone's private house. What is going on with YouTube? Because it isn't private. It's absolutely not someone's house. It isn't a private home, right? And it's not sort of like an industrial estate where they invite their staff in. And, there's office workers and, what right have you to go on there anyway? Well, the thing is, if you are, delivering something there, you've been sent there, then, are you trespassing or not? Are we using the Trespassing Act every time, the postman goes on there? Do we say, oh, he's using the Trespassing Act, he has a right to privilege your interest every morning when he goes there? He's delivering letters, servicing notices. He doesn't have to argue it. He's not challenged on it, and he's not even using any special right. He's not using a special enactment. Could you go into a walk around the factory and start surveying people, or at least wait outside till they come out, like the miners' strike and so forth? Surveys, the council usually do surveys at the side of the street, at the side of the road. What if you want to? What happens if you know, a lot of the copyright law goes around educational purposes. You know, maybe you could book in to see a mill owner if you wanted to research the factory, or, you know, do a survey or find out something, right? They have the, you know, tax inspectors around and health and safety inspectors doing surprise visits. You know, what are the rights of the health and safety inspector to come with a surprise visit from the government to YouTube, right? Health and safety inspector comes to YouTube, surprise visit to, you know, check the health and safety of YouTube building, right? Is he allowed in or not? It's private, right? Well, it's government, but why is he allowed in? If this is private, you know, this is my house, you know, this is my house. But again, the other video that I made, you know, this is a corporation, a company enacted under, you know, Companies House of England. You know, it's not all your money. Some of it's the government's money. In fact, the government, you know, you wouldn't have a company if the government didn't say it. You know, you are one of Companies House's many companies, and a lot of your money that runs through it is the government's money. And all the laws that apply to your staff, the government made up, and so forth and so forth. In fact, all you're allowed to do is make money and have the freedom of, you know, choosing to make the things whatever you want to make, until you start suing the government because you get too much money and too big, you know. Health and safety inspectors, you know, checking premises. You know, the company might not want them in. The company might not want them there. They might not be complying with health and safety. They might have flimsy policies, like what YouTube have got, where everything's not well defined, or it overlaps, or, you know, they've got over 18s for gory films, but then they say they don't allow any harmful or dangerous acts. You know, but there are harmful and dangerous acts being portrayed in films all the time. That's why they're 18 certificate, and YouTube rent those films out. You know, and then, you know, sexual content, none at all. But there's loads of films with sex scenes in or kissing, and then they've like just flimsied the whole area of, you know, fetishes. You know, but then, you know, when it's violence, apparently, you know, if it's pretend, it can be on there. You know, clearly these horror films and other action films with dangerous or violent acts haven't had their channels pulled. But, you know, if you upload some footage or some video with, you know, real acts that aren't acted, apparently if it's against the law or whatever, they can take it down straight away. You know, but, you know, so then again, are they deciding if it's real or pretend? You know, should it be completely removed, or is it just acting? You know, but oddly enough, they can put the sexual thing into that category, whether it's acting or not, because they say they don't allow it at all whatsoever. Yet that's not true, because they've got loads of videos on there. You know, what are the boundaries? The reason that the law exists in legislation is so that, you know, if there's any question over it, you go into court and you get the legislation out. When you've got a platform like YouTube, and, you know, apparently they're not even acting on the legislation, it's just policy, but the policy is so undefined and so general that they're kind of making it up themselves, but they're making it up in a completely more flimsy and loose way that even they do in the courts, when sometimes it might not be well defined. But then they don't actually want to go to court, because apparently they've got immunity only if it's illegal, because if it's not illegal, then there's no criminal charge at anyone, not even you or YouTube. So if there's no criminality involved, then why would YouTube not want it on there? Well, because they only decide what they can and can't have on there for their own policy, except things that have a particular right, or they have to allow, like, you know, health and safety inspectors, police, ambulances, so forth. You know, it would be all right if they had a government, you know, sexual content inspector. It seems like they need one now. You know, and if the government health inspector was coming around, or if the government, right, have their own sex inspector to inspect all YouTubers' videos, what is the government sex inspector going to inspect them based on? Based on legislation or based on YouTube's policy? But YouTube's policy is not the law of America, so sex inspector can inspect YouTube based on their own policy, because their own policy is not the law. They could only base it on what was legal or not, you know, and given on films, most of things are legal, you know. So, you know, it's kind of ridiculous. They shouldn't have policies that aren't based around the law. That's the point. In fact, this whole thing for policies is American. We didn't have policies in England. We had the law. And you had laws like, health and safety laws, employment laws, employment laws, health and safety laws. Why have you got a fire escape there in the building at work? Oh, it's health and safety. Is it policy? No, it's health and safety law. It's not policy, it's health and safety law. Why are you doing the accounts in there? Oh, we've got to file them with Companies House. Why are you doing the taxes? Oh, we've got to pay the government. It seems that these Americans started when the McDonald's came over. Now, when you actually look at the American law, they've got all these different ridiculous states with all these ridiculous different laws. It's amazing that McDonald's started off, because to have a burger franchise and then, do successful in, Kentucky or whatever, at that point, we're doing quite well. I've got my own business, a burger thing. I've got quite a few all around, Kentucky. At the point when they decided to go the next level, bigger than that, and, let's do the whole of America, then this is where, so the laws are slightly different laws in Kentucky. You can only flip burgers 3 times, or, you can only have 2.5 ounce burgers or so forth, or whatever it is. That seems to me why they started having policy, because there were different laws, probably different laws for health and safety and different laws for all manner of regulations of restaurants all over America. But then what we get after that, coming out of America, is this very shiny plastic, squidgy, rounded character, Ronald McDonald, with his army of restaurants that all kind of are finely tailored and shaped, where they somehow now all operate in a standard manner which fits all these myriad different states of America, all around America, all these different laws all around the different states, but out of them comes this neatly packaged skeleton key McDonald's restaurant that fits every state. It's finally tuned its operating policies so it fits with different laws, unless it's got slightly different, unless you can have slightly stronger root beer in one state to another state, right? It seems to me like when you've got all these different companies that are operating all over America, they might need all these policies and so forth, because the laws are different, from state to state. And then if they've got customers going in, they might not be aware of, the laws changing. It's almost like, other laws, like, to sit on the floor and so forth. The thing with, and really, YouTube is kind of like the opposite of that. It's kind of like the mirror of that, because you've got all these different states with all these different laws, but then out of America comes McDonald's, Ronald McDonald, and he comes to all these other countries with his, like, United States of America, but, all many different laws of, 51st state or whatever. Instead, now, what we've got are all these different countries around the world, like, England, Australia, Canada, all these different countries that have got all these, different cultures. And, what's happening is they are having these big platforms, and what they're doing is they're doing this big general McDonald's style, extremely rounded and vague policy, like plastic toy policy, CocoMelon policy, which, they need to kind of have a policy for the world, because they just want one platform. They want a platform, but yet they've got all these different laws that they've got to comply with. How can we keep all these countries happy? You'll have to make the platform like, so it's almost like, out of many different states with many different countries, you get McDonald's coming out of it with one set of company directives. But, instead of, splitting up again, separately to cater for all different countries' needs, what these big corporate entities are doing are trying to get every other country to comply with the platform. Right, well, this is how we want our platform, and we want all your countries to be like this platform, right? Accept the policy of this platform, even though you've got completely different rules and laws in each country. So it's like the opposite, innit? I am through all this corporate elitism in America and all these massive enterprises, I just don't know how they've still got all these states, all these separate states. I don't know why they haven't just packed it all in, and just, scrapped it. With all these big companies taking everywhere over, America was meant to be diverse. They tried something new. They had all these separate states rather than, it's like England or whatever. They had all these different separate states with different laws, let them make their own laws, right? But what we're ending up now with is this kind of like they want everyone to comply with YouTube law policy, everyone to comply with Facebook policy. It's going totally the other way. That was meant to be, the land of the free, the land of liberty. We have different states with different laws here, but I don't think, it seems ridiculous why they want to revert back to what England was like, with one kingdom. Why does Mark Zuckerberg want the world to be a kingdom, is metaverse kingdom, and why does Elon Musk, and why does, Bill Gates, and why does, Larry Fink? It seems ridiculous that, Trump's got this flag, that he's always got this flag, Trump, right? Yeah, America, make America great again, as if America was great in the past before. But isn't that when they had loads of different states with loads of different laws? But now, it doesn't seem to be the case. Mark doesn't like that. Mark wants the whole planet to be Facebook policy, right? Because it's easy for Mark and then he's in charge. That wasn't what the whole point of America was. It seems rather ridiculous. Trump's like, make America great again, make America great again. But Zuckerberg's like, no, we're kingdom, my kingdom. A metaverse, my kingdom for a metaverse. This is it. I don't get it. Why is Trump banging on about make America great again like it used to be with all separate states and separate laws? Yet at the same time, he's like, Bill Gates, metaverse, take over the world, one policy, one planet, whatever. World Economic Forum. And I think it's because they've got so much money, insane amounts, that they just get what they want. And this is the problem. They're not elected either. They're not elected. They've made money. The whole point of America was we're going to make this, liberty. We're going to have everything voting, everything's elected and so forth. But it doesn't make you money getting elected. It doesn't make you money voting. Having these big businesses makes you money, but running the country is meant to be through election, for democracy. But when they get so much money and they've got so much, they can literally have anything they want, and then they make these devices and they want everyone to use the devices, and they're turning into tyrants, political tyrants who want their own way. And they're not just spoiled like kids used to be spoiled. They're absolutely, it's beyond spoiled. It's demonic. There is something just so wrong about it. It's gross excess. And they can't have just achieved it by themselves by pure luck or chance or just doing, online advertising. Some military government forces have picked them out and singled them out and channeled monies into them, because when these people appeared, they were already massive, vast enterprises with interests and plans and strategies and science labs and research and a long-term phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 strategic planning department of the military and royal regime. And I just don't think that these oligarchs, Zuckerberg, Musk, get that. And, Elon Musk's X thing, oh yeah, it's going to be great, everyone's going to use it and we're going to make loads of money. But what is that? How is that competitive for other businesses that might want to do something like that? It's not. And in fact, David Cameron, it's not that long before David Cameron was there going, oh yeah, we're going to sell all the public services off and give them to private companies to have a bit of competition so that we can have more variety and they compete between each other. But that's not what Elon Musk's doing with X, is it? In fact, he wants everyone to use it. So that he's not going to have any competition. So, it's almost like David Cameron might as well be Rimmer off Red Dwarf, but instead of a H hologram on his forehead, he might as well have an X on there. I'd like to see David Cameron, debate Elon Musk now that he wants to take over everywhere with X, when Cameron promised to have competition. But what he just meant to mean is, we're going to whoop you. We want to be able to whoop you all, because at the current moment, we're not in a position to beat you. But if we take everything off you, then we have beaten you, because it's not yours anymore. And then we win the competition. That's the competition that he wanted to have. It basically means hand it over now and then we win. That's it. Get competition over. Because any sense of, competitivism, how is Jeff Bezos and Amazon competitive? It's not. He's got loads and loads of sellers and businesses under him, but I don't buy off eBay so much hardly anymore from overseas because they put the prices up too much. There were meant to be loads and loads of options for sending things, different companies. Where are they all? There aren't. Cameron has not delivered anything to do with competitiveness. In fact, we've got these massive, Amazon taking over. And, there aren't that many large places. They're buying everywhere else up as well. There is no competitivism other than Zuckerberg and everyone are whooping us by making platforms with policies that we don't even elect them or make the rules up. That's the thing with these platforms. We don't actually have a say in what the rules are. And they're not even surveying us to ask us, It would be all right if, and the thing is on YouTube, they keep popping up these, questions. Oh, what is this a good suggestion? Do you like this? Why is it popping up saying, what do you think we should change the sexual policy rules a little bit, or change the age limits, or this or that, or whatever? They're not asking us anything about how all these questionnaires. Why aren't they asking us about what do we think to the rules? What do we think they change the rules? You'd think that's what they've been doing, but oh no. YouTube is not private. It's never seemed private. It's not a private club. It's not a private house. It's public access. It's public, if you can be in a shop, if you're allowed to be in a shop and you're allowed to speak to your partner or friend and, pick up a pair of shoes and ask them if they like them or not, and maybe we should buy those ones we saw down the road, you can say it freely. And if you've got the right to petition, which extends that free speech, then you can walk around the shop and ask people if they sign the petition or not. That's it. It could be annoying the shopkeeper, and maybe they might ask you to leave, which you could comply with, but you can't be prosecuted for it. The thing is, YouTube, if you're logged out, anyone can read it and watch it. So it's not private at all whatsoever. There's nothing private about it. The newspapers also are there to publish things that people ask them to publish. And they would only really refuse something if it was illegal, unlawful. There would be no reason to refuse it other than this political party bias. But then, you've got this illegal campaign intervention when you can't intervene in election process. Petition is the it is like election process, because you can petition for elections, and you can petition for all manner of things. It is a legal process like elections, and you can't intervene in it. You're in the wrong business. If you want, the very first day when you go, right, shall I start the metaverse or an ice cream factory, or maybe I might like to be a cobbler, or shall I have a newspaper? Well, what is a newspaper? Newspapers is a thing that publishes stories, and people can advertise in there, and it's got legal sections and public notices. That's what it is. And that's what you have to accept. That's what it is. And the thing with YouTube is it's meant to be, I'd like to see them completely and totally ban all politics from there, because then, they're pulling up. Notice that they haven't actually said you can't have political adverts through the ads section. And it would be impossible for them to say we're not having any political videos or content on there at all, because then they're blatantly going into the First Amendment. But they're not blatantly going against the First Amendment, because they're just kind of say, oh well, we've got political. You can have political videos, but if those political videos are against the policy, then you can't have them. Well, that's why they're protected. So you can't have a policy on them. Why would you want one? This is it. Particularly when you've got over 18. Over 18 stuff on there. It's like what RFK says. RFK is correct when he says that their policy is it's not well defined, and I think it's not well defined because they don't want a very detailed one. They want to be able to kind of say what they want and not have to answer to anyone. Yet, how do you answer to the health inspector when you go around? Do they send him away and say, oh, he's not allowed in the building? This is it. And if the health inspector does go in there, I think that YouTube kind of want their own health and safety legislation for themselves. I think YouTube probably think that they can just make up their own health and safety. It's health and safety inspector's surprise visit. Oh, we got, well, you can't have that there and you can't have that there. Oh no, it's don't worry. This is special stuff for YouTube. Well, you're in Alabama now. No. We're not in any of the states. This is a metaverse. There's a space station. I really think Zuckerberg actually believes that he's so big that he has his own state with its own laws. And if the health inspector comes around and he says, well, we're in Hawaii. Well, this is my private house. You can't come in and inspect it. Well, there's been a report that there's been some suspicious activity, so we've got to have a look around. Well, I'm not letting you in. Oh, well, we'll go get a warrant from the courts. No, I am the courts. It's like, well, what is Zuckerberg going to do when the court come around with a warrant to search his premises? Is he going to say, oh, I've got my own courts, thank you, I get my own warrants, we deal with our own suits here, this is my court, the court of King Mark, this is it. It just, that's where I am with it now, because, YouTube have got a policy. No health inspectors are allowed to YouTube to make any surprise health inspection visits, because we don't want them to. Actually, no, there's a law. It says that you can't do that. You can't have that policy. Really? This is it. It doesn't matter if it's private or not. That there are certain things, You can most definitely be outside YouTube asking for petitions, and possibly they can't. If you're in the building, I don't think they can stop you from asking people, really, because it goes beyond free speech. If you can be there without being thrown off, promoting or advertising the petition most definitely can't get you removed if you had a right to be there in the first place and there was no reason to remove you. That's how I kind of see it. But it's like the house party thing again, isn't it? You could be in a party and talk about what you want until you start. People can walk away from you, But if you were invited, you've got a right to be there, until the owner throws you off. Unfortunately, on YouTube, the owner seems to be making all kinds of manners of policies that he fancies when there are certain rights that we're meant to have. And then everyone's saying, "Oh no, YouTube's private." It's not private. It's never been private. It's not private. It's privately owned. It's not private. Private is you have to be a member to go in or invite only. It's not private. A shop is like a public house. You can go in there and look around and so forth. You don't have to be invited or ask permission to go into it. And that's the difference. That's the thing that they're not getting with YouTube. If you want a platform where anyone can look at it and anyone can read it, and then they're asking people to sign up with accounts, and you got to comply with the law. But then they're saying, you're getting into the whole reason why they invented discrimination, and when it comes to discrimination, you can't discriminate in the workplace, and that's privately owned. There's something about the discrimination in the workplace. You don't have to be working there. Like when you're at the till, your point of contact and being out in the public,